Hey, what's up everybody? Jake here and welcome to the hobby. And in today's video, we are talking about the modern Pokemon card bubble. Or is it a bubble? Are we in a bubble? What does that even mean? So we are talking about how modern Pokemon card prices, specifically those in the Sword and Shield era. Very specific, not Scarlet and Violet, not Sun and Moon. Sword and Shield era Pokemon cards have been climbing quite rapidly. The alt art cards, the big five as they're known as now, we got ourselves the Umbreon VMAX, the Rayquaza VMAX, the Giratina V, the Blaziken VMAX, as well as the Gengar VMAX. These five cards have been dubbed the big five from the Sword and Shield era. They all command a really nice premium price, and surprisingly, they're all in various different sets, except for Evolving Skies having two of the big fives on the list. There's actually a ton of other cards that are kind of on the cusp of becoming really big as well. So there's a bunch of really cool cards from this era, and they've all been jumping quite a bit in price. The Umbreon VMAX leading the whole entire pack, reaching close to about $1,000. It reached $1,000 around a week or two ago. If you're talking about PSA 10s, those are going for $1,500 each, so quite a bit of value in just one single card. Now, if we're talking about, do we have a bubble rising right now? I would say yes. This is sort of what you can expect in terms of a bubble-like stage, where there's sort of this euphoric feeling. There's sort of this unstoppable feeling where these cards seem like there's nothing stopping them. They could just keep rising forever. And I see people talking about these cards in that kind of breath. I see the comments where people say, you know, don't think these cards are ever going down. They're not going to go down at all. It's just impossible. The Sword and Shield era is completely out of print. There's no way these cards can go down because all of these cards are now out of print. There's only going to be so few of them out there. They're only going to get more and more rare. And that's sort of the conversation that you have when you hear people talking about a bubble. And of course, there's the other side where people are saying, this card is being market manipulated. This card is being market manipulated. You're all being market manipulated. And I don't really see that happening either. I really wish the market was as simple as one guy sitting in their room, clicking buy all on every single alt art card, but that's not really the case. We have a ton of people collecting these cards. I know plenty of people out there that generally enjoy very specific alt art cards, and while they have really deep pockets, they're rooting for these cards, so they end up picking 10, 20, 30 copies of these cards. So yeah, there are people out there with 30 copies of Umbreon VMAX. It's not that surprising. I know people out there with whole entire binders full of one singular card that they really enjoy. So this absolutely does occur. It's not one particular person. It's not even a group of people. It's hundreds upon thousands of people all kind of doing the same thing. So from my initial impression, I would say yes, we are in a bubble-like stage. I wouldn't call this a true bubble because this is very specific. It's not the whole entire Pokemon card market, right? It's a very specific chunk of the market. Sword and Shield alt art cards. Really, that's like the main portion, but it also includes the sealed products, because if the alt art cards rise in value, the sealed products have to do as well. So the booster boxes have climbed in value as well, but you're not seeing it anywhere else. You're not seeing vintage Pokemon cards jump up in price. You're not seeing any movements in Sun and Moon era or Scarlet and Violet or any other era. It's one very specific group, which is Sword and Shield, and it kind of makes sense for there to be a small swing, but that's how the market kind of works, is that one little ripple kind of expands and becomes an even bigger ripple, and then it becomes a tidal wave later on. And what that really is that Sword and Shield is truly out of print right now. A lot of the sets are no longer being printed. They're no longer in stock at your store. If you go out there and you try to find yourself some Sword and Shield booster box, your local card shop might be carrying a couple, but they're gonna run out fairly soon, because now we're moving deep into the Scarlet and Violet era. So definitely that's what's triggering this shift, is that people are realizing Sword and Shield is going out of stock, going out of print. But the thing is, that small shift, and when everyone is buying those cards and those sealed products all at once, it creates a big wave. So that's what we're seeing now, is that a lot of these products where people are saying, hey, yeah, that set from 2 or 3 years ago is out of print now. I really should be picking those up if I ever want to have them in my collection. So people are picking up one booster box here and there, but if you have thousands and thousands of people all picking up one booster box, it creates a lot of momentum. So that's what we're seeing in the market. Is this a bubble? Like I said, I do think that there is a definite sense of that happening, and I would say yes. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say yes, we are in kind of a bubble. I don't think it's a big bubble. I don't think this is gonna be a major scenario where card prices absolutely crash after this, but I do see some retraction. I do think that when you expand that rubber band, eventually it has to snap back. What that means is that I don't think a card like the Umbreon VMAX is gonna drop back down to 400 bucks, but is it possible for it to cool down and return to a $700 to $800 range? Yes, I think that's completely possible. I think that there is potential there for when the market cools down, it ends up being kind of at a middle point. It's not gonna be as cheap as it was 6 months ago, but it's not gonna be as expensive as it is now. And that really depends on where the market cools down. Right now, if you look at the population report, these cards are not that rare. I know a lot of people are scooping up these cards as if they are the rarest things in the world, and if you don't pick one up now, you're never gonna pick one up. But the reality is, if you wanna pick up any of these alt art cards from now till the next 100 years, they are still gonna be readily available on the market. The market will never run out of copies of these cards. Whenever you wanna pick one up, whenever you win the lottery and you have all the money in the world and you can buy every single one of these cards, they are going to be available for you. What does that mean exactly? It means that if you look at the Umbreon VMAX population report, there are over 11,000 PSA 10 graded copies of them out there. Just PSA 10 graded copies. That's a lot of mint copies of Umbreon VMAX, 11,000 as of right now. That number is going to continue to climb over the next couple months and as more and more people grade their cards. And the graded market is only a fraction of the ungraded market. There's way more ungraded Umbreon VMAX than graded ones. So realistically, let's say there's 50,000 Umbreon VMAXs out there. That's so many copies that it's always going to be available. If you want one, someone out there is going to be willing to sell you one. So it's not going to be a scenario where every collector scoops up this card and whenever you want to find one, you're not going to be able to, because there are cards out there that are rare enough and hard to find enough that if you try to find one on eBay or search for it on multiple listings, you're not going to be able to find a copy. But this is not one of those cases. The Sword and Shield era is so heavily collected, so heavily traded, and so popular that whenever you want one of these sealed products, whenever you want a specific card from this era, you can scroll through many listings from all kinds of different marketplaces. When you go to a Collecticon or you go to any other trade show, you can find pretty much every single dealer in the whole entire area has a copy of an Umbreon VMAX. It's so heavily traded back and forth that there's so many copies of it out there. This is not a case where the market's gonna run out. So to answer it, I do think that prices are real. These prices are real. This is not a market manipulation situation. I think the market is actually shifting up for a lot of these cards, because this is what happens when people see things that are out of stock and out of print, and hundreds and thousands of people are all scooping up one box or one card at a time. And there is a small minority, a very small minority of really influential collectors out there who have very deep pockets and they're willing to make that exact same bet, but in a significantly larger landscape where they are picking up dozens and dozens of copies of Evolving Skies booster boxes or Umbreon VMAX. But that just really showcases how many copies of these there are out there. So you heard it here first. I do think that there is going to be a market retraction in the future. Timestamp this video now. In 6 months, when the Umbreon VMAX is a $2,000 card, you can come back to this video and point and laugh at me at how wrong I was. But being someone that's been a long-term collector, I absolutely see some level of retraction in the next couple of months. These prices can't go on forever. When you see things that are spiking up 100% or 200% in a couple of months, it is going to come back down, because there are people that have made their value from these cards and are willing to offload them. If I have 20 copies of Umbreon VMAXs, I might be willing to cash that in to get a new Tesla or something. I don't know. There are collectors out there that have that amount of value, so they can do that, especially for how valuable some of these cards are. So is there a potential market retraction? Up to you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.